Okay, next we're going to look at when your number in front of your x squared is not 1. So your a does not equal 1. So remember, this is your a, your b, and your c. So first thing I want to check for is there a GCF. So between 2, 7, and negative 30, there is nothing that those three have in common. So I'm still going to follow the same procedure I did before. I'm going to multiply to be the outside, which now I have 2 times negative 30. So I'm just going to write I multiplied a times c, because again, this is a, this is c, that equals negative 60. And then I want to add, my b term is 7x. So two numbers that multiply to be negative 60 and add to be 7, that's going to be 12 and negative 5. So again, I'm going to replace my middle term. So I have 2x squared. I'm going to write the 5 first, then the 12. So first term and last term should be the exact same. So now I'm still going to group. And then here I can take an x out, and I'm left with 2x minus 5. Here I have 12 and negative 30. I can take a 12 out. Sorry. I can take a 6 out, and I'm left with 2x minus 5. So again, your two parentheses should be identical. So that's one of my factors. And then my other one are the GCFs that I took. Okay, one other way I would like to show you, and this is a good kind of method to use when we get into more complicated factoring and we need to get factors quick. Okay, we're going to kind of move toward you being able to do this second method I'm showing you. So once you get your two numbers, okay, anytime you have a number in front of your x squared, you're going to divide your two factors by that a value. So for us, it was 2. So then I get 12 divided by 2 is 6. And then here, this stays a fraction. So what's happening are these are our two factors. So now what we need to do is just write them in factored form. So here, I'm going to follow my sign. So since this is a plus 6, a positive 6, that would be my x plus 6 factor, which notice is a match here. And then here, to write a fraction into factored form, you're going to take the denominator, which is 2, and that goes in front of the x, and then the negative 5 would follow after. So once you get your two numbers that you're going to use, whatever your a value is, you're going to divide your factors by that a value, and then you're going to write your two in factored form. So this is kind of our goal that we would like you to get to be able to do this little shortcut. Okay, I'm going to do both methods again for number 10. So first thing you always want to check for is a GCF. So 4, negative 12, and 5 has nothing in common. So I need to multiply to be 20. And I'm going to add my middle term to be negative 12x. So those two numbers are going to be negative 10 and negative 2. So again, I'm going to replace negative 2 and negative 10 in the center. Notice the 4 and the 5 stayed the same. That will always happen. Okay, I just strategically put the 2 with the 4 and the 10 with the 5. Again, if you flip-flop these, that's fine. So group first 2, last 2. GCF here is going to be 2x. I'm left with 2x minus 1. So one misconception we see a lot is that if I'm taking a 2x away, that's 0. Remember, you're dividing. So this is 2x divided by 2x. Anything divided by itself is 1. So make sure you be careful with that. You should always have placeholders for all of your numbers. And then here, I'm going to take a negative 5 out. So that would be 2x minus 1. So notice here, if I took a 5 out, my signs would be the opposite of this, and I need them to be the same. So I took a negative here because this leading this negative 10 was first, and that's a negative. So again, my two factors match. That's good. And then my GCFs are my second factor. So now I'm going to show you again that kind of little shortcut. So we found that negative 10 and negative 2 were our two factors. So the number in front of my x squared is 4, so that's what I'm going to divide by. And then these don't divide nicely, but I can reduce those fractions, so I'm going to do that. So this would be negative 5 over 2, and then this would be negative 1/2. So notice both of these I have fractions this time, where over here I had a whole number and a fraction. So we're going to treat those fractions just like we did over here. So again, for your factors, your denominator comes in front of your x, so the 2 would come in front, and then this negative 5 would tack on at the end. And then here, this 2 would come in front of my x, and this negative 1 would tack on at the end. So notice I'm getting the same exact answer by doing both methods. So again, the goal would be for you to start using this, but if you need to write the whole thing out the next couple of times, that's totally fine. So again, I'm going to have you pause, do 13, 14, and then come back on and check. Okay, so checking 13 and 14. So two numbers that multiply to be negative 168 and add to be 17. That's 24 and negative 7. And then we're going to divide those both by 3 because that is our number in front of the x squared. So 8 would just be our x plus 8. 3 would come in front of the x, tack on the negative 7. Same idea here, two numbers that multiply to be negative 54, add to be 25. Notice both of these are fractions like we did above, so the 2 goes in front, 3 goes in front. Make sure you follow your signs. Okay, next thing we're going to look at are perfect square trinomials. So what's going to happen here is just like I did my difference of two squares, I'm going to have perfect trinomials. So what has to happen is your first term and your last term have to be perfect squares. So meaning you can nicely take the square root of them. So here, square root of my first term would be 2x. Square root of my last term would be 3. The other thing that has to happen is that my two terms multiply together. So 2x times 3 equals 6x. Okay, that number should be double this. So if I multiply that number by 2, I should get my middle term. So again, if I take the square root of my first term and my last term, multiply those numbers together, double it, it's going to be my middle term. So notice that checks out. So here I'm going to take my square roots of my first term and then square root of my last term. And then here you're going to follow your signs. So since this is a plus, these both need to be plus signs. Notice those are the same factor. That will always happen if you're doing perfect square trinomials. Okay, with difference of two squares, we had a positive and a negative. These are going to be the same sign. So here I have 2x plus 3 to the second power. Okay, here again, square root of x squared is x. 169 is 13. So if I take x times 13, that equals 13x. And then if I double that, I get 26x. So that checks out. So that means this is a perfect square trinomial. So again, square root first term, square root last term, and then my middle sign's positive. So these both have to be positive. And then I'm going to write that as a single and then with a squared exponent. Okay, you guys are going to do 15, 16. Come back on and check. Okay, so then checking the top, again, square root of x squared is x, square root of 121, and then middle term is negative, so this middle term should be negative. So this sign and this sign should always match. Again, here, square root of 4x squared is 2x, Square root of 1 is 1. And then middle sign is negative. So this would be negative as well. Okay, next thing we're going to look at is factoring when you have fractions involved. So this is often something that people don't like to do. So one thing that we want to work on is getting rid of the fractions. So first thing I'm going to do is multiply everything by 1/10, which is the highest denominator I have. Okay, so if I multiply 2 over 5 by 1/10, I'm just going to do this off to the side so you can see what's going to happen. Okay, so when I do that, I want to look at making all of these 1/10 because that will get rid of my fractions. So from 5 to 10, I would need to multiply by 2. So I'm going to multiply the top by 2 as well. So that would get me 4x squared. And then here, from 5 to 10 again is 2. I'm going to multiply that by the top because whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. And then here, notice I already have a 10. So I'm just going to bring my 7 down from my numerator. And then from here, I'm going to factor this like normal. Okay, so then I'm going to have two numbers that multiply to be 28 and add to be negative 16. That's going to be negative 14 and negative 2. So again, together they make negative 16. Multiplied together, I get negative 28. Divide by 2. This gets me negative 7. This gets me I'm dividing by 4 because my a value is 4. So 4, 4. So here I would reduce to negative 7 over 2. Here I would get negative 1/2. So you're always dividing by the number in front of your x squared. So again, here I'm going to take my 2 that comes in front of my x minus the 7. And then here, my 2 and then my negative 1. You want to make sure you bring down that 1/10 because that, again, is part of our original problem. So we converted all of these fractions and we got rid of the fractions here. So then for 14, same idea. So we're going to take all of this by 1/10. So again, notice this first term, I don't need to change anything because it already has a 10. So I'm just going to bring that x squared down. From 5 to 10, I need a 2. So I'm going to multiply the top by 2. That would get me negative 16. And then here, this would be a difference of 2 squares. So square root x squared, and then square root 16, and then one sign positive, one negative, and then I'm going to bring that 1/10 out front. Okay, I want you guys to try 17, 18. Pause, check your answers. Okay, so again, I'm going to multiply by my 1/4 here. That's my highest denominator. So from 4 to 4, I don't need to do anything. So I'm going to bring my 3 down, so 3x squared. From 4 to 4, I don't need to do anything. I'm going to bring my 2x down. From 4 to 4, I don't need to do anything. So I'm going to bring my negative 5 down. So the only thing I did was get rid of that denominator. Okay, notice I still have it here. I'm just pulling it out of my original problem. Okay, from here I'm going to factor two numbers that multiply to be negative 15, add to be 2. That's 5 and negative 3. Divide each of them by the number in front of your x squared. Okay, same idea here. I'm going to pull my 1/8 out. So from 8 to 8, I don't need anything. From 2 to 8, I need a 4. And then I would do the difference of 2 squares there. So 1 positive, 1 negative.